cases with explosives in it, basically, which would have been this, basically. So they'd been using that for quite a long time prior. They was using all that shit, and those explosives, okay? But, the Spartans dealt with them still. Okay, it goes on to read here. It said, over half of those guns were unusable during the later Middle Ages. The invention of gunpowder weapons replaced only catapults and onagers. The change was slow, so they weren't practical enough yet. Okay, these new guns. Okay, buying guns in those days was a costly affair. The cost of one gun was the equivalent of 2 months' pay for a skilled artisan. By 1450, okay, notice this date, 1450. Okay, Esau came back into power. This was the Renaissance period, the 1400s. Okay, which we're going to read further down in a minute. Okay, this is when Esau came back into his power. Okay, after he was locked up for 1,000 years, according to the scriptures. Okay, after the Roman Empire fell. Okay, and the Byzantine Empire and other empires at the time, like the Islamic Empire, were ruling Europe and that. Okay, it says by 1450, inventors improvised the make of the gun and introduced the matchlock gun. Though inventors came with new technology, the process of reloading after every shot was very time consuming. By the time they were reloading the gun, the cavalry would charge and annihilate the entire unit of shooters. Okay, so as I said, it wasn't a perfect art just yet. Okay, but let's see if we can add that scripture up. Okay, let's see. Okay, Revelation 20 verse 7, it says here, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. Because like I said, after the Roman Empire fell, the white man went down, okay, and he was forced out. Okay, he went to dwell in the Caucasus Mountains, okay, and there he was shut up, being like a prison, because he was surrounded by growing empires. Okay, and he had no real way to gain influence in the world. Okay, like he had previously in the Roman Empire. Okay, so he was shut up basically. He couldn't do nothing there. Okay, so those 1,000 years, led up to what they call the Renaissance period, which is French for rebirth. Okay, and what was rebirth was the power of the so-called white man had come back into play. Okay, and started gaining dominion out here. He started taking over Europe, okay, Russia. He was becoming that dominant force once again. Okay, it says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them to battle, the number of whom is the sound of the sea. Okay, which is later prophecy, which is being fulfilled at this point in time now, because the so-called white man is going to go to war. Well, America is going to go to war with Russia, and America is going to be destroyed, and Russia is going to take significant loss, man, until the Lord returns and deals everyone that final blow. Okay, but the 1,000 years it's speaking about is the time where the so-called white man was shut up in the Caucasus, man, and couldn't put his influence on the world. But like I said, 1400s is that Renaissance period. Okay, which is the next part here. It says Renaissance weapons. So Esau's coming back into his power. He's back in his power, and the Lord started giving him this technology, man. Okay. It says medieval weapons were still in service during the Renaissance and Civil War. Some of the medieval weapons that were still in use included guisarme, the halberd, the mace, and the partisan. The halberd was a traditional weapon used by Swiss. The halberd was designed intricately. These weapons was traditional and consisted of an axe blade balanced by a pick. The head of the shaft would usually deem more like a spike. This weapon was mostly used by the foot soldiers against cavalry. Halberds became obsolete when improvised pikes started to be produced in huge numbers. Let's see, get to the meat. Okay, the sword changed many times in this time. Okay, but the real development was these guns, man. Okay. It mentions Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, that faggot. Okay, in the year 1502, Valentino chose Leonardo da Vinci as his engineer general. Leonardo sketched new devices for war, something like pointed artillery projectile bearing very close resemblance to an aerial bomb. Okay, siege guns. China was the first place where cannons were used for laying siege. Metal cannons were manufactured and mounted on the Great Wall of China to protect it from the Mongolian hordes. The Mongols learned this technology and made cannons to invade Korea. In 1593, cannons were used most effectively in the siege of Pyongyang. Ming warriors made cannons to fight the Japanese. The battle was won by the Ming warriors because the Japanese lacked cannons of any sort of gunpowder weapons. Okay, so having that gunpowder technology was a great advantage to those who had it, man. Okay, like I said, a lot of these people were still using, traditional weapons. Okay, and what happened with Esau is that he got ahead of everybody, man. Okay, that's why no one was able to stand up against him. Okay, to this day, no one is able. That's why they're all chasing the technology of the so-called white man. That's why Iran wants to get hold of nuclear weapons to deter, the so-called white man and other enemies, man. Okay, a lot of these nations are playing catch-up still, man. That's why America has the largest military budget in the world, man. Combined with these other nations combined, man. Okay. Okay, that's all it from this one. This one isn't as good as the other one I'm going to bring up, but let's get a scripture quickly. Okay, this is Daniel chapter 8 verse 5. Find it. Okay, like I said, man, this all stemmed from when Esau gained his power, okay, but it goes back further than that. Okay, because the first time Esau had his empire on the earth, or his main empire on the earth, was when Alexander the Greek, took dominion of the known world at the time, man. Okay, and according to prophecy, okay. This is Daniel chapter 8 verse 5. And I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a noble horn between his eyes. Okay, this is talking about Alexander the Freak, okay, you call Alexander the Great. Okay, that Greek faggot, okay. He went on the face of the earth, man, and he took down the nations that surrounded him very quickly, okay, in a short space of time. That's why it means his foot did not touch the ground. It didn't take him no long time to do this. Okay, I can't remember how many years it took him to do this, but it wasn't very many. He was a young man still. Okay. It says, and he came to the ram that had two horns. Okay, this is talking about the Median Persian Empire. Okay. The two coexisting empires, okay, which had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns. and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Okay, so this is basically prophecy that Alexander was gonna take down the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, which happened. Okay. And you get the account in Maccabees here. Okay. It says here, and it happened that after that Alexander the son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chetim, has smitten Darius the king of the Persians and the Medes. Okay, there's the two horns. Okay, the goat with the two horns. That he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars, and made many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. Okay, so he became proud, man. That's why they want to go. Okay, and gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who become tributaries unto him. Okay, so that set up the stage for, you know, what later became the Roman Empire, because, you know, that's all of Esau's kingdom. Okay, the Greeks in this instance, because the original Greeks are from the nation of Japhet. Okay, but you know they was calling themselves Greeks at this time. And you know, from this, you know, and from many wars later between each other. Okay, because if you read through history, you know, Alexander's kingdom was split between his generals, his 4 generals, right? And they all went to war, you know, with each other. Mainly 2 of them, after the other 2 got taken out of the scene. Okay, but then out of all the fighting, you know, Rome came in and took over the whole scene, man. Okay, which is just, you know, another part of Edom. Okay, another Edomite group. Okay, basically. Okay, but that was the first great empire of Esau, man. That Roman Empire. Okay, stemming from the Greek. Okay, this is Daniel chapter 7 verse 6. It said, after this I beheld, and lo, like another like a leopard. Okay, this leopard represents Alexander the Greek. Okay, because he used to wear leopard skin when he used to go out to battle. Okay, it said, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. Okay, talking about his 4 generals. Okay, the dominion was given to his 4 generals. Okay. And after this I saw that in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. Okay, the residue is talking about the nation of Israel. Okay, this is talking about Rome. Okay, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Okay, and the way Rome was diverse from all the empires that came before it is that these weren't run by kings, man. They had the democracy and the Senate. Okay, the image was different, man. They didn't have a king that ruled over them. They would vote. You know, you had certain men that would put themselves in the power seat for as long as they could. Okay, like the Caesars. Okay, it wasn't run like before. They didn't have a king like the king of Babylon and so on and so forth. Okay. And it had 10 horns, okay, which is, you know, talking about what are the original founding nations of NATO today, okay, which would be your Spanish, the French, which would have been the Gauls, Germany Major, Germania Minor, Greece, what else is that I just mentioned? Okay, Britain. Okay, I'm not sure how many I just mentioned there, but you know, you catch the drift, man. They're the original founding nations of which is NATO today. Okay, Rome in the reincarnate. Okay, it says, I considered the horns, and behold, they came up among them another little horn before